Paddy Pimblett recently crossed paths with Sean Strickland at the UFC Performance Institute, and what could have easily been a tense or awkward encounter instead turned into a surprisingly relaxed and genuine exchange that gave fans a rare look at the human side of two fighters known for their blunt honesty. As Pimblett walked into the facility, he immediately joked about Strickland's presence, saying his first thought was wondering who the absolute animal standing there was. Strickland fired back with the same energy, and the two quickly started laughing about how different they looked compared to the last time they had trained together. There was no ego in the room, just two fighters acknowledging how much their bodies and routines had changed since their last sparring session. The conversation naturally shifted toward weight, something that defines the lives of professional fighters more than most people realize. Pimblett explained that since they last worked together, he had already dropped close to 18 pounds and still planned to lose about the same amount before stepping back into the octagon. He admitted that the process isn't easy, but it's necessary at the highest level. Strickland responded by revealing that he had gone through a similar transformation, saying he had lost somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds during that same period. He laughed about how undisciplined he used to be, especially when it came to diet and carrying unnecessary weight, openly acknowledging that his habits hadn't always reflected the standards required of an elite fighter. Despite the jokes and self-deprecation, both men made it clear that discipline is ultimately what defines them. Pimblett reflected on the fact that he once hovered around 200 pounds and how uncomfortable that felt, both physically and mentally. Shedding nearly 30 pounds, he said, had made a huge difference in how he feels day to day, not just in training, but in life overall. The exchange highlighted the sacrifices fighters make that fans rarely see, especially when it comes to conditioning, lifestyle changes, and the constant battle to stay in peak shape. As the interaction wrapped up, Strickland surprised many by expressing genuine admiration for Pimblett outside of fighting. He said he regularly keeps up with Pimblett's life and enjoys seeing him with his two young children, adding that it genuinely makes him happy to watch. Pimblett responded with sincere appreciation, thanking Strickland and ending the conversation on a respectful and positive note. It was a moment that showed a different side of both fighters, one built on mutual respect rather than trash talk or rivalry. Elsewhere in the MMA world, Conor McGregor found himself back in the spotlight after making candid remarks about his future during a casual live stream. Sitting at home and playing Roblox with his son alongside a popular streamer, McGregor casually dropped information that could have massive implications for his fighting career. Despite the relaxed setting, his words made it clear that major business discussions are approaching. McGregor explained that he is currently warming up for what he described as a potential fight tied to a White House event, expressing excitement about the possibility and even mentioning that he would be open to meeting the president if everything lined up. McGregor revealed that negotiations with the UFC are expected to begin in February and stressed how significant these talks could be given the company's recent financial developments. According to him, the UFC has secured a massive new deal with Paramount valued at around $7.7 billion, a move that has dramatically increased the promotion's overall profitability. McGregor pointed out that this shift has effectively made his existing contract outdated, as it was heavily tied to the pay-per-view model. With that model seemingly fading away, he believes the terms that once defined his deal no longer apply in the same way. He reiterated that he remains the highest pay-per-view generating fighter in MMA history and expressed hope that the sport fully transitions away from that system. As negotiations approach, McGregor said he's genuinely curious to see how a new agreement would be structured and what it would mean for his role in the sport moving forward. For now, he insists his focus is entirely on what he can control. He described living in the gym, prioritizing his health, recovery, and rest, and staying completely locked in with his coaches and game plan. External noise, criticism, and speculation mean nothing to him at this stage. While he acknowledges that distractions exist, he refuses to let them seep into his mindset. McGregor emphasized discipline and leadership, explaining that he wants to set an example for his children and his team by fully embodying the lifestyle required to succeed at the highest level. For him, preparation isn't something that switches on during fight camp. It's a daily commitment, a way of life that he believes separates champions from everyone else. While fighters prepare and negotiate, voices from within the sport continue to debate how the UFC itself operates. Veteran commentator John Anik recently shared his belief that UFC events would benefit from having fewer fights on each card. Speaking from years of experience behind the microphone, Anik explained that modern UFC events have become extremely demanding for fans, broadcasters, and media alike. He pointed out that cards often stretch close to 8 hours, which can be exhausting even for the most dedicated viewers. Anik suggested that instead of stacking cards with as many as 15 fights, the UFC should aim for around 10 or 11 bouts per event. From his perspective, a 5 or 6 hour broadcast would be far more manageable and enjoyable. He acknowledged the effort that goes into producing these events, but stressed that the current format asks a lot from the audience. With events scheduled on dozens of Saturdays each year, committing an entire day to every card can become overwhelming over time. He also noted the complexity of the situation, recognizing that the UFC must balance the demands of television partners, international broadcasts, and a roster that has grown to more than 600 fighters. Anik questioned whether signing dozens of new athletes each year through the Contender Series is sustainable in the long run. If given the power to make a major change, he admitted he would reduce the roster significantly, believing that smaller cards and a leaner lineup would make each event feel more meaningful rather than like a non-stop marathon. Technical analysis also took center stage recently when Nick Diaz broke down what went wrong for Jack Della Maddalena in his fight against Islam Makhachev. Diaz focused less on toughness or heart and more on grappling fundamentals, emphasizing that the mistakes came down to leverage and positional awareness. He explained that the knee is a critical source of leverage in ground situations, allowing a fighter to create space, disrupt balance, and break grips. Without proper knee placement, escape attempts become ineffective, leaving a fighter stuck under control. Using the Makhachev fight as an example, Diaz pointed out that the same issues repeated round after round. He noted that Maddalena appeared to be learning how to escape in real time during a 5-round title fight, something Diaz sees as unacceptable at that level. He explained that a high-level grappler doesn't always need to aggressively pass guard to dominate. In Islam's case, maintaining control was enough. Diaz questioned why Maddalena allowed himself to be held there repeatedly, arguing that an undefeated fighter should already understand why those positions are happening and how to address them. Diaz expressed frustration at watching 5 rounds of the same mistakes, especially on the sport's biggest stage. He emphasized that solutions must be systematic. ND ingrained long before fight night. Insert the knee, break the grip, establish leverage, and use proper arm positioning over time. These fundamentals, Diaz argued, must be second nature, not something figured out mid-fight. Outside the cage, Francis Ngannou delivered a viral moment after meeting popular streamer Isho Speed at the AFCON final in Morocco. What started as a friendly greeting quickly turned into an unforgettable demonstration of just how powerful Ngannou truly is. Speed expressed interest in learning boxing and insisted he could handle the realities of combat sports. Ngannou laughed and warned him that even controlled strikes can hurt. To make the point, Ngannou delivered a very light body shot, one that was enough to drop Speed to the ground instantly. The moment was met with laughter and disbelief, leaving Speed with a newfound respect for Ngannou's power. Actor Matt Damon also shared an MMA-related story that resonated with fans when he appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience. Damon recalled unexpectedly meeting former UFC champion Henry Cejudo backstage at an event and realizing how misleading appearances can be. Cejudo, dressed modestly and carrying himself calmly, looked nothing like the stereotype of a dangerous fighter. Damon joked that it suddenly hit him that this quiet, unassuming man could absolutely destroy him in a fight. The story led to a broader reflection on how truly capable individuals often don't feel the need to project toughness, reinforcing the idea that real strength is often quiet. Confidence was also on full display when Arman Tsarukyan spoke about a potential matchup with Ilia Topuria. Asked whether anyone in his division could beat him, Tsarukyan answered without hesitation that no one could. When pressed further, he claimed he would beat Topuria 11 out of 10 times, making it clear he believes his style completely neutralizes Topuria's strengths. While acknowledging Topuria's skill, Tsarukyan emphasized that preparation, conditions, and small advantages matter immensely at the elite level, reinforcing his belief that he would dominate the matchup consistently. Finally, Justin Gaethje delivered one of the most intense statements regarding a potential fight with Paddy Pimblett. Gaethje explained that his strategy revolves around dragging the fight into the later rounds, where cardio, durability, and mental toughness decide everything. He said his goal is to exhaust his opponent completely, turning the fight into a test of attrition. Drawing from past bouts, Gaethje argued that 5-round fights amplify his strengths and expose weaknesses in others. When speaking about Pimblett, he made it clear that this wouldn't just be about winning, but about inflicting sustained damage through pressure and pace. Gaethje described embracing pain as a path to his most dangerous state, concluding with confidence that his preparation has been absolute, and that he's ready to deliver the performance he envisions when the moment arrives.